and the ability to see it in the length of time, how does this compare typically?
This one's about average. You can only have up to 7 minutes and 29 seconds for totality, or as little as just a few seconds. So this one is about average for what we get for total solar eclipse.
What's unusual about it is it goes all the way across the country, right, Bill?
First time since 1918, coast-to-coast solar eclipse in the United States. First time in 99 years. That's a big deal.
NASA is tracking this. One reason we're here is that NASA is also here. What is NASA up to?
They have got people, scientists and observers spread out all along the path of totality. They have more than a dozen satellites, have instruments trained on the sun during this event. They have jets flying at extreme altitudes, around 50,000 feet, with suites of different instruments to study the sun in different wavelengths. And of course, they've got television now streaming on the web from at least 10 different sites along the path of totality, including the folks right behind us, the NASA Edge people. And they have a major telescope here, a solar telescope here that's streaming live views of the sun in multiple wavelengths to show it in hydrogen alpha, that sort of orange light that you see surface features better, white light, other frequencies. So I think it's they're really going out of their way to both share this with the public as well as collect the scientific data that everybody wants.
The big show is coming up real soon. The total eclipse in Madras, Oregon is just minutes away. We will take you there when CBS News coverage of the eclipse of 2017 continues, and we'll be keeping an image of the eclipse on your screen through all of our commercial breaks.
Want real news right now? We've got the app for that.
This is CBSN.
We're just on the front lines. The police have surrounded the area.
The marchers were saying, let us march. We want to march.
CBSN. CBS News. Always on.
Welcome back to CBS News coverage of the solar eclipse of 2017. We're going to be joined here momentarily by Derek Pitts, the chief astronomer at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia, as we continue to look at a live picture. Derek Pitts, as I mentioned, is the chief astronomer at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia, but he is in St. Joseph's, Missouri today. Derek, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So tell me, what are you looking forward to, and why are you in St. Joseph?
I'm in St. Joseph because this happens to be one of the locations along the eclipse path where we have nearly the maximum amount of time in totality along the entire path. If I go down the path a few hundred miles, I can get up to 2 minutes and 40 seconds. But right here in St. Joseph, this is a great location for this because of the access and because we have this great open location to observe from.
This is always an exciting experience, but what particularly are you excited about this year?
Well, what I'm particularly excited about, there are really two things. Anytime I get to stand in the shadow of the moon, that's a great thing because eclipses while not necessarily rare, you know, you have to travel all across the world to catch up with them. But the thing that really gets me about this particular eclipse is that so many people across the nation will be able to experience this one way or the other. They're going to be out viewing this live in some locations right along the eclipse path, but others who aren't along the eclipse path, they are going to share this on social media, and hundreds of millions of people will get to share not only their experience about the eclipse, but also their emotions about the eclipse. Not to mention the fact that scientists will be able to gather so much data that will help them better understand more about how the sun works.
We are about to reach a total eclipse in Madras, Oregon. As you can see right there, Jamie Yukas is watching it. Jamie, what's happening?
Anthony, I can't look away. I know we're about 2 minutes from totality, and everyone here just started cheering and clapping. It's a very primal moment, many people are saying. I'm with the mayor of Madras. His town is usually 6,200 people. It exploded to around 100,000, so people could go ahead and watch the eclipse. Mayor Royce M. Banks, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. I know I want to keep the glasses on too. Describe how you're feeling right now. First of all, the temperature's gotten cool. It's like twilight, and you have all these people watching.
I'm so excited. This is just really the thing that we've been planning for 3 years. And to have everybody here and everything running smoothly and people enjoying it, it's really worth it.
I want to keep talking to you, but let's put our glasses on and take a look up at the sky, because we are just moments away from totality. Of course, Oregon is the first of 12 states. You can hear the crowd starting to cheer. We're at Solar Town in Madras, Oregon, which has about 20,000 people in it. Mayor, you heard a couple years ago some scientists were booking out hotels.
Right.
About 325 hotel rooms were booked up. Then how did you start the planning?
The first thing we started planning was for safety. When we finally realized that we were going to have this event happen, we did some research and see how many people are Umberphiles, those that follow the eclipses. And
it was a lot.
It was a lot. So we started planning then, and we planned for safety, and that's where we started our structure of our plan. And we just evolved it into making sure we had all the amenities and that people would be safe and comfortable.
Mayor, you described it a few moments ago as this was starting to enter totality. You said this is a very primal event. We're starting to hear people cheer and scream. We are just moments away from the eclipse happening in totality. How are you feeling? I'm anxious right now.
I am too. I mean, I'm looking at it, it's getting smaller and smaller, and pretty soon we'll see it, and the crowd noise is going up.
Oh,
it's just amazing.
Wow. They keep saying they don't know how you're going to react, and I can tell you this crowd is very, very excited. Anthony, this is just incredible to watch.
It's gone.
It's gone. We're in darkness.
Oh,
take off the glasses.
Look at the halo.
Oh my goodness.
Look at that halo.
Jamie,
That is
Yukas, you've disappeared on television.
That is amazing.
Jamie Yukas has been eclipsed.
Absolutely spectacular.
It's even more beautiful than I thought it would be.
This is spectacular. Yeah, I don't think you and I have never experienced this before.
Never.
And you have about 2 minutes here in Oregon from start to finish, because we are tilted further away from the moon here in Oregon than you guys are in Carbondale, Illinois, Anthony. You guys get about 37 extra seconds than we do here in Madras, Oregon. But I have to tell you, the reason the city was picked was because it was going to have clear skies. This is absolutely incredible. If you look around, it's like a beautiful sunset. You can see Mount Jefferson behind me and some of the other Cascade Mountains in a smoky haze, because they do have some wildfires burning, but it is incredibly beautiful here. People are oohing and eyeing. I want to take just a second for people so you can hear their reactions here, Anthony. Isn't that great?
Wow.
It's spectacular. As you're leading up to doing these stories, Anthony, I'm sure you heard as well, people describe, if they've seen them before, just how everyone reacts in a different way. And I was feeling so anxious, like the mayor was, just to see this happen. And now to take it in, it's just breathtaking.
Even on television,
for everything
it's stunning.
It's a payoff. Yes,
it really is.
Yeah. And the cheers and the oohs and the ahs. We had talked to a woman a little bit earlier who said she was planning to start crying because she felt that this was such an emotional experience for her. And I think to be in a place like this, can you hear the car alarm? apparently the car is excited about the eclipse as well to the left of us right now. It looks like we have a little bit of movement. I should probably put my glasses back on.
It's coming back.
It's coming back. Seems like the sun's getting a bigger chair.
Yeah.
There it comes. There it comes.
So almost 100,000 people descended on this town in Badgers, Oregon, usually a population of 6,200. On top of the traffic, fighting some of the lines in the grocery store, I think this was well worth all of that for sure.
Wow.
Mayor, what do you think? Was that the payoff?
That's the payoff. I am so excited. And if you notice, it's getting lighter out.
And warmer a little
warmer,
bit.
yeah.
It was very odd. As you're leading up into the eclipse itself, I will tell you, as you guys go to experience it, you start feeling a temperature drop, and they talk about that little bit of breeze. We saw some birds start flying around. It almost looks like twilight. It's an incredible experience, and I can't wait for the rest of the country to have that experience. And it's now moving at 2,237 miles an hour, so good luck to you.
Jamie, thank you. Bill Harwood, this never gets old, does it? How many of these have you seen?
No, this is number one, is a total eclipse. I am thrilled to death, though, to watch that video from Madras because it gives us a hint of what we're going to see here in just a few minutes. The moon is about, I'm guessing, 20 to 25% over the sun as viewed from right here in Carbondale. But man, looking at that corona come out, the outer atmosphere of the sun around the edge of the moon, it doesn't get more spectacular
Yeah,
than
the
that.
reemergence of the sun is just as dramatic as the disappearance of the sun. It's so striking to see it now and to hear everybody getting excited and cheering, and to remember that it wasn't that long ago that this used to terrify people when it happened.
Absolutely right. You know, there have been all kind of incidents in history where battles were being fought and everybody just suddenly stopped fighting. There was an eclipse, you know, walk away. You know, it's been said, it's not that eclipses are totally rare. I think what's making this one so totally riveting is social media, the connectivity we all have to share the event across the nation along this path of totality. It's just remarkable.
Well, it was not that long ago. The first photograph of a solar eclipse was taken at an observatory in Prussia in 1851, the very first picture, and to think of how many millions of photographs will be taken today.
Oh, absolutely. That's everything from smartphone cameras that the public is going to be using to the scientists all along this eclipse track. This is going to be the most documented solar eclipse in history, with everything from more than a dozen satellites looking at the sun to hundreds, if not thousands, of telescopes and professional-grade cameras that are going to be photographing this thing all the way along its track.
Which is, and this information is obviously for scientists, is extremely important.
Oh, absolutely. The corona that we could briefly see in that shot from Madras, that kind of gossamer ring around the sun, that halo, that's a fascinating area of the sun's atmosphere. It gets superheated. They don't know how. The surface of the sun is about 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. You move just a little ways away and it jumps up well over 1 million. They're really trying to understand what powers the corona, what energizes it. It has to do with the magnetic field of the sun, but there are competing theories about how that works. This eclipse and all the data that's going to be collected may go a long way toward answering those questions.
All right, well, we are going to follow this eclipse as it makes its way across the continental U.S. Still ahead, the eclipse in Wyoming. We'll be right back. Remember, the image of the eclipse will remain on the screen throughout the break. You're watching CBS News coverage of the eclipse.
I felt so safe. No warm.
asking the right question is 95% of getting the right answer.
That's a great question.
Thank you for the question.
You done your homework?
What do you say to your critics?
So to be clear, Mr. Trump has no financial relationships with any Russian oligarchs.
That's what he said. That's what I said. That's obviously what our position is.
CBS This Morning, Real News.
What's new under the sun?
Good morning. I'm Jane Pauley, and this is Sunday Morning. Da-da-da-da. This is exciting. So do you watch your movies with your kids? No.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
Might that have been a career ender for you? Oh, gosh, yes. For anybody.
Experience thought-provoking, innovative, and truly original reporting.
Hey, Jane.
Because there's a
We're looking at the map of the eclipse as it makes its way across the country. Our next stop on this journey is Wyoming. Totality is coming up there at about 34 minutes past the hour in Jackson Hole. CBS News national correspondent Jeff Glor is in Jackson Hole. Jeff?
Hi, Anthony. I was very jealous listening to Jamie and the reaction that everyone had there in Oregon, but it feels good because we know it's coming our way. Now, you can get jealous of this view, but it's coming your way as well. And of course, you'll see more of that totality than anyone here in the U.S. Grand Teton is one of 21 national park properties that is in the zone of totality, but it's the most high profile by far, and the views should be spectacular here today. We've seen cars lining up all morning long. They created a spaces along the line of totality in the park, 1,000 spaces, which is not to mention the tens of thousands of other people throughout this park watching this rare occasion. Some paid $150 to take a tram ride up to 10,000 feet. Some hiked up to Grand Teton overnight, which is just under 14,000 feet, and they will watch the solar eclipse from there. It's going to be pretty spectacular to watch from this location, though, because what's going to happen just as the eclipse is happening is you'll see the shadow of the moon paint itself across those mountains, across Grand Teton. That'll happen very quickly, and then the eclipse itself, it'll be dark for 2 minutes and about 15 seconds here in Grand Teton. No problems that we've seen so far. There was a very unusual story last week that appeared on social media where somebody tweeted out pictures of empty store shelves. And so there was a run on food for a time. It turns out they had the food, they just didn't have the right people stocking it at the right time. So all nerves were calmed here in Jackson. And as that eclipse happens, I think the main confusion we're going to see is just the animals trying to understand exactly what's happening here in the park because all the people know exactly what's going to happen and they have their cameras ready. Anthony?
Jeff Glor waiting for the eclipse in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and it sure looks like it's going to be stunning there. Michelle Nichols is back with us along with Bill Harwood. I want to ask you both. It's one of the things that's so striking is the degree to which we can predict where the eclipse is going to happen and for how long it's going to happen. How long have we been able to do that?
Well, we've been able to predict eclipses for potentially since the Babylonian times. But we've gotten really, really good at it, especially in the last few years, because we have NASA spacecraft like the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which has given us a really wonderful view of the actual shape of the moon, and so they can predict the path of the eclipse to within feet.
That's just stunning, Bill.
Yeah, it really is. You know, I was thinking about writing a lead for the eclipse, and I was thinking with clockwork precision, because it really is like a celestial clock. The way the moon orbits the Earth orbits the sun, and of course the rest of the planets. It's very stately, very majestic, and very precise.
We talk about how rare these are. The next one, which will bring us a total eclipse, will be 2024. In fact, it's going to pass over Carbondale right here again, which is why they're calling themselves the Solar Eclipse Crossroads. That's going to be. You'll be able to see it for longer, but not as much of the country, correct?
That's right. It's going to come in over the border between Mexico and Texas, go over Dallas-Fort Worth, and then swing up and really think of an arc across the central part of the United States and out the St. Lawrence Seaway. It's going to be spectacular. About a 4-minute duration on that eclipse versus the around 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes on this one.
What do we talked a little before about what science gets out of this? Every time something like this happens, there's a leap in terms of what they understand. Is that right, Michelle?
That's right. That's right. So the scientists are really trying to figure out our sun. It seems like it'd be so easy to do because it's so close to us, but it is difficult to learn about this star. You can't reach out and grab some of it and bring it back, not easily anyway.
We want to go back to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, because they are entering darkness, we are told. Or about to.
We are, Anthony, and I have to tell you, it's a beautiful and eerie and calming feeling here. It's like a shadow is coming in, and you see the color of the mountains has changed in our background as that grows. And I think so people are trying to watch in both directions right now because they're watching Grand Teton, which is behind me, but they're also trying to watch the sun, which is in front of me. You hear the cameras going off here right now. There's a silence to it. And the color, it's hard to describe the color and how this is shifting right now and changing just before our eyes. But as I just mentioned before, what you're going to see just before the eclipse happens is behind me, you're going to see that shadow on Grand Teton. And that'll be the moment when you know that totality is here. And after that shadow then disappears because the moon, as you know, is moving so quickly, then we'll have totality here in Jackson Hole, Wyoming for 2 minutes and 15 seconds. This park is so spread out that it's been interesting to see strategically where people go to figure out where to watch it.
About that, Jeff.
Some people have pulled over in their cars. You know, they didn't allow people to sleep in their cars overnight. But some came in their cars this morning and just are by their cars. Some hiked great distances as well, Anthony.
Jeff, do you have any sense of how many people there are in the park?
Well, so they say in a typical mid-August day, there's 25,000 people in the park. This is going to far exceed that number. Look at this. Here it comes. This, they didn't want to speculate on exactly how many they think. I wouldn't be surprised if that number gets quadrupled today or more. But people have found their own locations. I just want to, here it comes. Let's listen for just a minute if we could. We hear some ooze. Oh man. Wow. Oh. Goodness gracious. Look at that.
Eerie silence there in Wyoming. We're just enjoying this as it happens. And there goes the sun.
Listen to their reactions.
We have about 2 minutes of this in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. There you can see the shadows of the mountains. You're watching a live picture of the total eclipse as it passes over Jackson Hole, Wyoming. comes. Wow.
Wow. So, yeah, that's that sums it up nicely. You know, Anthony, you're going to see this shortly. It doesn't seem real. It does not seem real when you see that disk, the moon blocking the sun. And it's interesting, you hear the reactions here. I mean, some people just soak it in silence. We heard some yelling, some whooping and hollering. Dogs get a little excited. They don't know what's happening. Birds don't know what's happening. But the light, as you're starting to see here now, I think returns pretty quickly to what it looked like before, as we watch people to our right and left, surrounded by sagebrush here in this gorgeous setting, soaking in what hasn't happened here in Wyoming in 99 years. And when it happened here last time, it was in Green River, which is about 2 hours southwest of here. They did an expedition to look at that and actually picked up some knowledge from that. And I know, as you've been discussing a lot this morning, they'll get a lot more from this one.
We're so enjoying this sort of slow dissolve back in of the sun in this just breathtaking landscape. It's so interesting because you go from one location to another. It's the same eclipse, but it's a different landscape, and it feels completely different. We will keep watching as the eclipse makes its way across the country. CBS News coverage of the solar eclipse of 2017 will continue in a moment.
What's new under the sun?
Good morning. I'm Jane Pauley, and this is Sunday Morning.
Experience thought-provoking and truly original reporting.
Join us when our trumpet sounds again
on CBS Sunday.
You're looking at a live picture inside Saluki Stadium on the campus of Southern Illinois University. All those people have come here to see the eclipse. 14,000. Stadium is sold out. The eclipse will be here in a little less than an hour. It's pretty hot here, but that has not stopped anyone. You can see there are a lot of telescopes, binoculars, you name it. They're all over the place. As we mentioned before, NASA is also here too with their telescopes and taking pictures. It's a pretty extraordinary celebration of this event, and Adriana Diaz is, I believe, inside the stadium with some of these great celestial fans.
Hi, Anthony. We are right here on the field. This is sideline reporting for the first time for me. This place is packed. As you mentioned, 14,000 people are here. They'll be filling in any empty seats to see totality. We're less than an hour away. If you look behind me, you see the crowds filling in the seats there. Everyone is fanning themselves with one of these. This is a fan of a Saluki. This is the mascot for Southern Illinois University. Everyone's fanning themselves because it is 90 degrees, but it feels like 114 here on the field. But that's a blessing in disguise because we can see the sun. That means we will likely see totality. When we look up there now, the partial eclipse has started. Right now we're seeing a crescent. Earlier, as the moon started to take a bite out of the sun, it looked almost like Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man. Now the moon is starting to move in further. That crescent is becoming thinner and thinner, which just means we're getting closer to totality.
Wow, Adriana, thanks. With us now is Matt Kaplan, the host of Eclipse Day here at Saluki Stadium, here at SIU. Matt's also the host and producer of Planetary Radio. He joins us with Bill Harwood, our CBS News space consultant. Matt, what exactly you got going on here today?
Oh, we have a lot going on. We've already launched 3 balloons into the stratosphere from 2 different teams to get way above what cloud cover we've got here. And they are loaded with instruments. We are actually tracking those as they go across the sky. And much more to come on the field. Lots of reminders of people to stay safe and use those glasses and keep hydrated.
Yeah. How long have you been planning this?
Well, SIU has been planning this for about 3 years. They first spoke to me a couple of years ago and just were interested in whether our show would be interested in covering the eclipse. And I said, you don't have to ask twice. And it grew into this, this amazing event.
So tell me about some of the events that are happening, because NASA's here, we mentioned.
NASA Edge they're doing their 5-hour, actually 4.5-hour megacast. You guys, obviously, a major presence here. We're told that there are something like 83 different media organizations here at SIU Carbondale, which makes sense because we're one of the best places to catch the totality.
And in addition to just the great show in the sky itself, what's happening inside the stadium?
The marching band, for one. We just had a woman, terrific, Marion Call, was doing a little bit of live music for us. We have a lot of activities going on with kids. We've got a little contest for people guessing at where those stratospheric balloons are going to come down, with some prizes in store for them. And really much, much more. Michelle, who you just had on, is one of our reporters in the field, roving around the stadium with one of the folks from here at SIUC.
We're looking at a picture of the eclipse as it makes its way through Casper, Wyoming. Really stunning picture there. It's just, this is one heck of a show. A cross-country show.
It's totally great we're getting to see this in stages, starting in Oregon, and we get to see it over and over again as the shadow moves eastward toward us.
I love the fact that every time the backdrop changes, it's almost like it feels like the story changes. You know, it's just stunningly beautiful in a different way in each place.
They say that no 2 total solar eclipses are alike. If you're standing under them, it really is a very different experience, even for the eclipse chasers who've seen several. And talk about tracking them across the country. There are several citizen science projects. One of them is underway right here, Citizen Kate, where they are actually at something over 80 different sites across the country with really good telescopes tracking this, and they're going to bring all that data together. So we have that happening right inside the stadium.
We started talking about this a little bit before, Bill, but I mean, what is so striking about this is the way we react to this now compared to the way people used to react to it, and how this, I mean, there were, old civilizations where they actually believed that some, animals were trying to eat the sun, and that's what was causing the darkness. And you try to imagine a couple hundred years ago, if you saw this happen, what you would have thought.
I don't know that you'd have any idea. I think about that frequently where I'm from in Florida. Thinking about there have been communities there for a couple of thousand years, actually, on the coast of Florida. I often find myself driving over thinking, what would they think if they could see our world? What would they think if they could see something like this, and what would they think of it, as you say?
Yeah.
It is a soul-stirring experience. I mean, I can't think of another way to put it. When you see the sun go out, you see darkness descend in the middle of the day, and you feel that temperature drop. It's otherworldly, I think.
This will be my first, so.
Me too.
No
we're
kidding.
sharing that together,
Another newbie.
Mine as well. That's 3 of us.
Yeah.
The word eclipse, incidentally, is derived from an ancient Greek root for abandonment. I may not pronounce this right, but it's something like eklepsis. The Greeks apparently viewed the sun as abandoning the earth, and that's where this came from. And this is, we were talking about NASA a second ago. This picture you're looking at now is actually from a NASA telescope positioned near here. Obviously, there's some clouds between us and this image.
We have Blunt Solar Systems has been working with NASA. So what you're looking at there, not this picture, but there is a 20-inch mirror that is